It starts with, a very solid, what I call an initial approach, right? It's
Okay.
those first 30 to 45 seconds. You knock on a door, somebody answers the door, or you walk into a business and you approach that business owner, that decision maker. What are you going to say in those first 30 to 45 seconds?
Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Real Estate Agent School podcast. I am blessed to have Lenny Gray on the show today. He is the owner of the D2D Millionaire. He has many service-based industry businesses and is a family man, a consultant, and a sales pro. Lenny, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Cameron. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I want to start from the very beginning. Obviously, a title like the D2D Millionaire, there has to be a story behind that. And so tell me how you got into the industry and just where it came from.
Yeah, no, and I can't believe it's been 25 years. This is
Wow.
my quarter of a century, anniversary this year of being in door to door. I started out like most people that do door to door. I was a college student looking to make some big bucks in the summer to help pay for life and
Yeah.
everything else I had going on as a college student. So a friend of mine recruited me and started with Orkin Pest Control with a pest
Cool.
control company or marketing company for Orkin. Went out and I just happened to be the top rep in the nation, the first year rep, I should say, the top
Amazing.
rookie. And from there, yeah, I just figured that, wow, I kind of am pretty decent at this, and this gives me a shot to make some great money, not have to necessarily work during the school year.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so it's kind of my story, just maybe similar to most people that get into door to door. It's kind of a college job, and here I
Yeah.
am 25 years later, and we're still helping people out, knocking on some doors.
Love that. So you got into the industry during college. And so I'd love to unpack that a little bit. Did you walk away from college? What were you going to college for? How did it come to where it is today if you were going to college? Were you going for something else?
Yeah, so I was a communications, like, broadcast major, and
Okay.
so I was going to be on TV. That was
There you
my
go.
thing. I was going to be a news anchor or something to do with TV, and I was an anchor at KBYU News there at BYU, where I went to college, and that was my path. And then lo and behold, that first year knocking doors, I made more money in 3.5 months than I would make in an entire year doing TV, and I didn't have to
Yeah.
work weekends and holidays and everything else. So I went, wow, maybe my calling isn't in television necessarily. Maybe I need to be on the doors.
Totally. It's a little life-changing when you can go just have conversations with people and make the money that's possible when just connecting people with their problems, and solving those problems and doing it face to face, even though it's a little bit scary, but the money is pretty awesome, and so,
It is. Yeah,
um,
I came from, pretty humble background and beginnings. My dad is a police officer. My mom owned a small house cleaning company. So
wow.
yeah, it was the money I was making in 3-4 months was crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
almost unbelievable from where I'd come from.
that's incredible. I love to hear those stories. And so let's unpack your kind of progression. You said your first year, you were the national rookie of the year in a sense for your pest control company, which is, I mean, that's obviously incredible in and of itself. Did you stay pest control for the last forever, or did you get into other industries, or kind of where did you go after that first year?
Yeah, so I came back a second and third year just as a sales rep. I just wanted to focus on what I was really good at and continued to increase my volume of sales and my earnings those years. Then I had graduated, so I jumped on with that marketing company for a couple of years, was their national sales trainer, flew all over the country, trained hundreds of sales reps on the doors. And I think that's where I really started to get an understanding of where the common mistakes were, why people said what they said when they said it, and just trying to train people how to do it the way that I had done it, and I taught myself really how to do
Yeah.
it. And then after those couple years, partnered up with a guy who actually knew how to kill bugs and do pest control, because all I did was sell it. I didn't know what the heck
Yeah.
happened after that. But yeah, so we partnered up in 2003. After 5 years, we started in Utah. We were the largest residential pest control company in the state. We were
Wow.
acquired by ServiceMaster, a 7-figure deal, which was pretty awesome. But we had
Amazing.
started other companies throughout the nation at that point as well. And so we just started to kind of build our pest control empire at that point. We're still business partners today. We still have pest control companies, but the D2D Millionaire side is a whole different branch off that I've created as far as just helping other companies and individuals, understand more about direct sales, door to door, and how to be the best they could be.
Yeah, totally. So you killed it in sales. You then partnered up, built a business of pest control, which is still operational, it sounds like, and there's some branches of that. And now you're consulting in the D2D Millionaire space of helping service-based industries pretty much grow with the sales tactics and strategies that you have implemented in your career, which is awesome.
Yeah, no secrets with me. That's the thing, Cameron, too, is I don't have secrets. Like when I started in the industry, 25 years ago, there was very little about door to door, and it almost was like this dark underbelly of you kind of got to lie, cheat, and steal a little bit to be good at it, and that just didn't resonate with me and the type of person I am. So that's one of the main primary motivators I had to write my 2 books about door-to-door sales, is I just wanted to put it all out there. This is how I was successful on the doors. This is how it worked really well for me. And, if somebody employs those same strategies for themselves, they can be just as successful.
Amazing. That's awesome. And so with my industry, obviously with real estate, how I've implemented door knocking into my career and mixing that with other door-to-door sales methods like pest control, alarms, solar, all of that stuff. I'd be curious to know what your general pitch or what the common objection handling phrases are in your, I guess, strategy or books, and so if you don't mind, walk me through kind of what your fundamentals are when knocking on a door and what you say to any salesperson, any industry. These are the 5 golden pillars that you need to have. What would you say those are?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the way I teach it, and this can be employed not just in D2D, but B2B or B2C, it's all the same. When I actually find there's a finance company that approached me to put together their B2B model. Cool. And I remember having this conversation with my wife, and my wife said, well, you're a door-to-door guy. I don't know if you can do this business-to-business thing. And of course, that was super motivating. So I said, oh yeah, I bet I can. So
that's awesome.
I think she knew what she was doing. But so what I did, I just employed the same strategy going business to business, and it worked just as well. So really, this is a universal way to approach people. And it starts with, a very solid, what I call an initial approach, right? It's those first 30 to 45 seconds. You knock on a door, somebody answers the door, or you walk into a business and you approach that business owner, that decision maker. What are you going to say in those first 30 to 45 seconds? This is where the majority of mistakes are made. In fact, I was doing a consultation call with a power washing company out of Ohio just yesterday. And when I do these, I normally have my clients, I'll teach them a little bit about an initial approach, and then I'll have them, give their initial approach, and I'll just kind of see where we're at when we begin. And inherently, everybody makes the same mistakes. And the first mistake that is made right off the bat, and I promise you this is the most common mistake that's made, is everybody wants to ask a question when somebody answers the door. Somebody opens the door and it's like, hey, how's it going today? Or hey, how you doing?
Yep.
This is not how we start a door-to-door or a direct sales approach, because what you've done is it's hard enough for you to knock on that door and you're nervous anyway, and it's a difficult proposition, as a door-to-door sales rep.
Of course.
If somebody answers the door who's not expecting you, you weren't invited, so you have 2 or 3 strikes already against you. And now you're giving them control of the conversation right away. Hey, how's it going today? Now you've put it in their world. Now they can say whatever they want to you, and you don't even care what their answer is necessarily. I have literally heard sales reps who, somebody's like, oh man, I'm having just a miserable day. And they're like, oh, great. Well, what I'm doing out here. And it's like, you weren't even listening in the first place.
Totally.
So you never start with asking a question. That's probably the biggest mistake that I hear. The second thing is we want to keep that initial approach, again, to 30 to 45 seconds. When I had these sales reps I was training yesterday, again, they do the same thing everybody else does. What they do is they rattled on for 3 or 4 minutes and didn't give me a chance to say anything. And if you want to know the ultimate goal of an initial approach, it's not to sell people, by the way. It's to
Yeah.
start a conversation. That is the ultimate goal. If you can start a conversation with somebody, then you're 10 steps ahead of anybody else selling anything else when they approach that door. So
Yeah.
my initial approach is 5 easy steps, right? And the first one is an introduction. It's who you are.
Uh-huh.
Again, it's not a question.
Yep.
It's a statement. It's who you are. It's why you're there, and you're
Right.
typically there because you know some of the neighbors, or you're doing some service work in the area, you're building a new
Yep.
route, you're looking for some new clients, whatever your proposition is there. What you're offering, big part about what you're offering is this idea of Black Friday. I write about this in my first book, so I don't want to spoil everything. But
Okay.
what I did is I did a lot of research on this, idea that the day after Thanksgiving, I
Uh-huh.
don't, it baffled me that companies could be operating in the red all year,
Yep.
10 and a half, 11 and a half months. And then all of a sudden, one day they start making a profit. And I thought, how
Crazy.
in the world why
Yeah.
can't we do Black Friday once a month or once a week?
Exactly.
What are the elements? So I basically divulge what those elements of Black Friday are. And that's what we have to incorporate into what we're offering on that doorstep. And
Gotcha.
if you can get the 3 things, and again, I'm not going to blow them here because I do want people looking in my book, Cameron. But
Absolutely.
you go to my book and you read about Black Friday. If you can have those 3 elements there, then you work into step 4, which is addressing a common concern. Most of the time, it's I don't have time. I already have your service. I do it myself. I already
Yep.
have an agent. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you want to get in front of that, and you address that concern before it comes at you. And that's a common theme throughout the sales flow, is what I call it, my sales flow.
Yeah.
And then lastly, you end with a conversational close. And a conversational close is super important because that's what starts the discussion, is
Yeah.
actually, getting a back and forth interaction with somebody. And my conversational closes, my best ones, have nothing to do with the service that I'm offering.
Interesting.
So that's kind of my 5-step initial approach. That gets me to the point where once I start that conversation, now what I'm looking for is my second part of my sales flow is qualifying. Because one of the biggest mistakes reps make is who's worth my time to talk to, who's not. And
Yeah.
so I break that down to divulge who is worth the time to talk to, who isn't, and how you can tell. There's 3 primary qualifiers in most industries. And then once we do that and we do qualify somebody, now we're going to value build, bring value to what we're offering, what our pitch is, what our service is, what our product is, whatever that may be. Of
Yeah.
course, we're overcoming concerns all along the way,
Yep.
and then closing. We got to close and then solidify the sale.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a 6-step process. That's a
No, it's
lot right
amazing.
there.
No,
But
what I love about this is, even though it's incredibly different and there's like obviously nuances to each industry and each conversation, the flow and the success tactics of a door-to-door approach is universal. It can be used in any aspect of business. Like you said, it can be B2B, it can be face-to-face on somebody's doorstep. It doesn't matter. It's just how to structure that conversation properly. And so in real estate, when agents are talking to somebody on the door, it's the exact same structure where you're having that initial conversation. And it's the funniest thing ever. Every single time an agent asks me, "Hey, what's your approach?" or "Hey, can I give you my approach?" and you critique it, they always ask that. They say, "Hey, my name is blank. How are you?" or something like that. And I'm like, nobody cares. They're not just going to want to talk to you about how they are. They want to know why you're there and how quickly they can think of something to get you off the door. And so having that initial approach, the icebreaker, and then having the ways to overcome objections and actually start a conversation is what's going to get the sale. And so what I would love to hear, just for pure entertainment before I move on to my next topic, is what was the craziest door-to-door experience you've had in your career, and how did it go? What did it look like? Because I know we've all had some crazy ones.
oh man, that's a loaded question. I'll try to keep it as PG as possible. There's probably a lot of R-rated ones.
Okay.
You got some younger audience members, so we'll keep
Yeah.
it on the PG side. I think one of an entertaining one that I had before is my 3rd year knocking
Mhm.
for Orkin Pest Control. So I was out doing pest control, and I was in a neighborhood. I
Yeah.
was in Jacksonville, Florida,
Oh,
and
cool.
a kid in the neighborhood had gotten stung by a scorpion, just one of those little scorpions. Nothing like
Yikes.
too crazy, but I kind of
Yeah,
felt like, wow, like I can sell a lot of people without bugs in a neighborhood, but now these people, there was kind of a high alert.
totally.
An older gentleman who answered his door, and he gave me the look of death and basically yelled at me like, "What do you want?" Like
Yeah.
just like that, kind of almost threw me off.
Yeah.
And so for me, one of the important things about, making a good impression in door to door is you got to mirror people. You got to come with the
Yeah.
same energy that they're bringing. So you
Uh-huh.
kind of get their respect. Right.
Yeah.
And so I yelled right back at him and I said, "Haven't you heard?" It kind of startled him. And he's like, "Heard about what?" And I said, some little kid down the street got stung by a scorpion. Everybody's kind of concerned about that. So
Wow.
they're having me come out. I'm setting up some services, et cetera, et cetera. And he looked at me and he's like, "I've been getting those too. You need to come in here." And
Amazing.
let me in his house and ended up
Yeah.
signing a deal with him. And it was just
Cool.
funny because that would not happen to me or anybody else for that matter normally, but it just, it just happened to be one of those funny.
No. The the guts it takes to mirror sometimes is intense, because you don't, I mean, it's hard to yell back at somebody if they're coming across intense to you, but that just solidifies the premise of mirroring and the sales tactic, that that's what you got to do, or you're going to lose sales. So you're going to shy away from that and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, like have a good rest of your day," but you close that guy. And
Yeah.
so that's what's so cool. And so the reason I asked that question is because the experiences in door-to-door sales, everybody thinks that the industry is a little sleazy or scary or people are mean. But I think I already know this answer, but I would love to hear your overall recommendation of how many people were rude and how many people were actually nice to you and were enjoyable to have a conversation with over the 25 years you've been doing this.
Yeah. And I will say, you're right, Cameron. Like there is, and there will continue to be sleazy people in this industry.
For sure.
I will just tell you that there's people that do it the wrong way because in large part because they're trained the wrong way,
Yeah,
and they will lie, cheat, and steal their way to it. But I would argue that there's probably those type of people in almost any industry.
for sure.
And again, that's my goal is, as I'd like to root that out, or at least teach people the right way to do it, so they
Yeah.
have a path to success that is ethical, that makes them feel good, that they know they earned exactly what they got. They can sleep well at night.
Yeah.
All of those things. So I think that's just the first point. To answer your question though, I think the good majority of people are decent to interact with. I don't think anybody's, maybe 1 in 100 people are happy to see you. "Oh my gosh, a real estate agent. Like we were just thinking about, getting, you're going to run
Yeah.
into that once in a blue moon." But
Yep.
the most part, you're just going to get people that are a little skeptical. They're a little put off. I think one of the most important parts of that 5-step initial approach I brought to is explaining why you're there, having a
Yeah.
reason to be there. A lot of times, if you have other clients in the area, you can name drop. And if it's a relevant name drop, I think that's what's super important. I
Yeah.
don't like the reps that are like, "Oh yeah, I know the Smiths down the street and we take care of the Johnsons down here." It's like, if they're just making it up, that's completely just, well,
Totally.
unethical, and it's just not the right way to do it. It doesn't make that impact. What
I
impacts
agree.
people is if you know their neighbors.
Yep.
If they know that you know who they know, now all of a sudden it's like I've kind of got to give this person a little bit of credibility, because I don't want to be rude to them because they know my neighbors, so to
Yeah.
speak. So
Yeah.
I think most of the time it kind of just starts right in the middle, right? Nobody's
Mhm.
super happy to see you for the most part. Nobody's like like that guy in Jacksonville I told the
Yeah.
story about.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of right in the middle. So that gives you a really great chance, if you have a solid initial approach and a solid game plan, it gives you a really great chance to kind of elevate that conversation and bring that person to your level of excitement and energy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's there's the relationships you can actually build going door to door are awesome. I don't know if it's similar in other industries, but with real estate, the people I've met door to door have become some of my closest friends. Like I love some of the clients that I've never spoken to before, and then a couple months later am now extremely close with because of the relationship I've built. And so the pros far outweigh the cons of being scared or nervous to knock doors or whatever. Because if you just put in the work, I mean, it's one, like we already talked about, incredibly profitable. But two, if you can just have a conversation with somebody, be ethical and be a cool, nice human being, you're going to do just fine. And so my next question for you is, in the door-to-door industry and just prospecting in general as a business person, there is a hard pull or just a challenge for people to mentally be able to get out and do it, to have the grit, determination to day after day go knock doors. It's not easy. And so when you are training businesses or reps or whoever you may be training, what is your tips for somebody that may be struggling with the courage to get out or mental capacity to keep doing it?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So here's the deal. I've again 25 years in this industry. I can probably count on one hand how many people love to knock doors that
Yeah.
I know. I'm not even one of them. I'm the door-to-door millionaire, and I don't just wake up every morning thinking I just can't wait to knock doors today. It's not easy. So
Yeah.
even for the super successful, in large part, it's not easy. It's something you really do have to have kind of something a little extra just to motivate yourself to go do it. But I
Yeah.
think why most people are intimidated by it, Cameron, is because they don't have a path, or they don't have a direction, and they think I'm just going to knock on a door and who knows what happens. It's like the game show behind door number 1 or 2 or 3, which one you pick, and where there's
Yep.
just so much uncertainty. So if you can have a process and almost a script that at first, it's scripted and you kind of have to memorize some different things and figure some things out. But eventually, if it becomes like second nature to you, just to almost have conversations with people, and it becomes more fluid and organic, then it just starts to get a little bit more fun. And the hardest door is that first door, right?
Yep.
Once you get out there and you knock that first door and you talk to somebody and you're like, oh, actually, this isn't that bad. Now I can keep going on and doing this. So I think most of that intimidation and that hesitancy to do door to door just comes from not knowing what in the world to say.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to approach somebody. And that's where somebody like me or somebody like you that has done it in our industries comes into play, where it's like, we actually have a philosophy and a methodology where we can teach you how to be successful and what to say and when to say it and all of those things.
It's so true. The agents that are most concerned, or reps that are most concerned about like being motivated, getting out to do it, one, are concerned, okay, I'm going to spend all this time knocking doors with people that are going to yell at me, and I'm not going to be profitable. I'm not going to be successful, because they don't have that system, or they don't have that proven method to succeed. But once you actually have that in place and have that method where you can look at it and it's pretty much a numbers game, it becomes super, super, well, not super fun, but doable in a sense, where okay, if I knock this many doors, I know with my system, my script, my follow-up, whatever it may be, I'm going to make this amount of money. And you can almost determine your lifestyle that you want to live. And that's what I try to preach is, it's not easy. Hard work is never easy. And the people that are willing to do it are the ones that are willing to put in that work. Nobody can just be like, okay, I want to be super successful and sit on my couch. If you want to go out and get after it, that's how you're going to find it. But once you implement that system, it's just plug and play at that point. And so in your,
And
go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just got one, I think, important comment there. A side benefit of door to door as well is, if you can do door, and I write about this again, the door to door millionaire, I will tell you, door to door is the armpit of all sales. I mean, I call it that myself. I've defined it as that.
Yeah.
But here's the side benefit. If you can do door to door, even just to get yourself motivated for 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, 10 hours a week, whatever you decide to do,
Yep.
every other aspect of your business and how you're trying to grow is going to become easier.
So much easier.
Because you've done the armpit, you've done the hardest, grossest, ugliest thing that you can do. You can do everything else so much better if you have door to door as part of your repertoire of growth. That it doesn't have to be your only one. It can just be part. But if you do door to door, you're going to improve every other aspect of your growth in your business.
Yeah, I love that. And that's almost a tenet of life, where if you can do the hardest thing first, or the hardest thing, get it out of the way, everything else becomes easier. I mean, fitness, health, dieting, business, if you can conquer the hardest part of your day, it's a cakewalk for the rest of it. And it's just so much easier to get through. And so I would love to hear about the now. You've obviously built this incredible system, business, brand around yourself. What is next for you? What are you looking to do as the D2D millionaire, and what do you got going on right now?
Yeah. So my passion is really teaching business owners and sales reps how to incorporate door to door into their business or improve what they're doing on the door. So
Cool.
I have two avenues that I do this through. For business owners, I always direct them to my website, lennygray.com. And
Yeah.
I have a setup where I talk to business owners every week on my calendar. I have time set aside, and we do a free consultation, and I just talk through if door to door is even a fit for what their company is doing or trying
Yeah.
to do. So I don't want business owners to waste their time. I've told plenty of them that, hey, I just don't think it's going to work for what you're trying to do and your growth
Cool.
strategy and your exit strategy and all of those things. So we kind of discuss that, and just to kind of give them an idea if door to door even makes sense for their company. And if it does, then I have a whole series of directions that we can go. I do
Yeah.
personal coaching. I have online materials for purchase. I have people, like, I'm heading out the day after tomorrow. I'm heading down to North Carolina. I've got a 2-day training camp for a pest control company down in North Carolina
Cool.
that I'll be doing. I mean, I have all sorts of opportunities for business owners to interact with me. Probably the most powerful thing is when I train a company with my training camp. It's normally a 2-day event, and I can do it virtually or go to the location.
Yeah.
But then I do follow up. So reps actually record themselves audio or video on the doors, and I can give them critique as though I'm their personal coach on the doors with them. So I can
Cool.
follow up actually with what I train in my training camp. So it's kind of an A to Z, helping
Yeah.
business owners, then even dialing it in and granulating it into those sales reps. The other thing that we do is for sales reps out there. My website, d2dmillionaire.com,
Hmm.
that's more sales rep focused, where we have a lot of free stuff. I mean, even my YouTube channel, the D2D Millionaire YouTube channel, hundreds of videos free.
Cool.
Reps can just get in there and go crazy and try to learn the best tips and tricks in door-to-door sales. But the other thing about sales reps is I think sometimes if door to door is not working for them, for instance, and I think you'd know this as well, Cameron, there's more than 50% of reps that start in door to door for a summer sales job quit. More than
Yeah.
50%. I've heard as
Yep.
high as 60, but I'm thinking probably mid 50s.
Yeah.
That's crazy that over
Nuts.
half of people that have a desire, that are willing to do this, they quit. And so
Yep.
I always say, if you're a business owner, you hire the willing, I'll make them able. I can do
There
the
you go.
able part. That's
Yep.
what I do. But I also do it for individual sales reps, where sometimes it's just a fit thing, where they're in an industry that doesn't make a lot of sense for them, just based
Yeah.
on their person. So at d2dmillionaire.com, we really try to find the perfect fit for the sales rep. And it's not just working for my companies, by the way. Like, I
Yeah.
have a pest control company, but I do not just steer people into pest control. No way. I have
Totally.
many connections, way too many opportunities out there for people. So
Yeah.
again, I'm focusing on business owners on one hand, on sales reps on the other hand, to make sure we find the perfect fit for them to really go maximize their potential.
That's so cool. That's awesome. So you're A to Z, helping people know how to do it, find the right opportunity to do it in, and scale and grow from there, which is awesome. And so, as the D2D millionaire, to wrap up this episode, if you were to give one piece of advice to somebody that is a door knocker, wants to become a door knocker, or is skeptical of door knocking, what would it be? What would you tell that person?
I would say to buy my books. And
There
again,
you go.
very low cost investment. Books
Yeah.
are what, 10, $20 or whatever they are on
Yeah.
Amazon. And I even self narrate the Audible versions for those of you like
Cool.
me. I don't love reading. I love
Yeah.
listening to books, and I digest tons of books,
Yeah.
on a monthly basis. Um, but yeah, I think that, to me, and you can read the comments on Amazon from my books. I think on my first book, it's 300 and some odd, reviews of it. It really, the reviews that I like and hate the most are the ones that said, why didn't I read this book 2 years ago? Why didn't I read this
Yeah.
book when I first started? So if you're thinking about door to door, if it might be a good fit for you or not, read the books. Again, low investment. It really gives you an idea of what it is. And if you can picture yourself actually doing this as you're reading the books, then you'll know if this is something that makes a lot of sense for you.
Cool. That's amazing. All right. Well, thank you again for your time. I appreciate you so much hopping on the show, Lenny, and sharing your tips, your insight. You're a legend, obviously, in the industry with what you're doing. And so I thank you again for coming on the show.
Thanks, Cameron.